Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Digital Adoption Show. Today, we dive into the world of digital transformation with a focus on real life success stories and the challenges faced along the way. Our first guest is Charlie Valerio, the CIO and FVP at AboitizPower. He leverages over 30 years of experience in IT and digital innovation to drive technological breakthroughs. As the former president of the PMI Philippines chapter and with a career spanning roles at Procter& Gamble, Shell, and various Philippine conglomerates, Charlie has been instrumental in using digital transformation to enhance business strategies across diverse industries, including some fast moving consumer goods, oil and gas, and retail. Our first question to Charlie was if he could share with us a few successful transformation stories, providing our audience with ideas they can implement in their own organizations. Specifically, what action did the organizations take and what were the outcomes?
Okay. Well, I'm excited to share about this program, Digital Transformation Program, which I think the most successful as far as I'm concerned among the digital transformation programs I've worked on. And this is with an oil and gas retail company. I mean, it's a local company. It's one of the companies in the four local conglomerates that I've actually joined. And this is, I mean, it's a lot of hard work, but it was fun. Firstly, the COO then, who eventually became the CEO, we really meet eye to eye as far as digital transformation is concerned. So, in fact, he kidded me at one point and say, "We're probably reading the same books because we're
Mhm,
speaking the same language as far as digital
mhm,
transformation is concerned," and that's key. And well, I guess the other factor as well is that he came from the same company where he came from, so we
mhm,
know how good looks like. Yeah.
mhm,
So when I say this, and he said, "Oh yeah, that resonates with me," so that's exactly what we did in that company. So there's really the meeting of the minds, which is very essential. So, and this is the COO who eventually became the CEO. So he was not just talking about it, but he's really walking the talk. Yeah,
mhm,
championing the digital transformation program. And in fact, there's actually one point. It was in 2019, by the way, that I joined them, and we were transforming the customer experience at the gasoline station, at the fuel station. Well, we've been with oil and gas, me 15 years, the COO probably 20 plus years. So we have like 50 plus years of combined experience in oil and gas.
mhm,
And we both know how to transform customer experience at the retail station or fuel station. It's just that, of course, we have to bring the entire organization with us.
mhm,
And there's one thing that we've done, which he actually suggested. Initially, I was saying that's too much work. He suggested that we do a skit. We actually show them, how it works at the retail station. So together with marketing, what I did was, the whole conference room or training room rather. So we have a mock-up retail station. We have cars made of cardboard, and we have customers. We had a script even. So we went through that whole process, just showing the organization how it looks like to be digitally transformed at the retail station. And lo and behold, it was so well received because they're able to visualize it, they're able to feel it. Yeah, so the hearts and mind were actually captured. And the CEO then, who eventually became the chairman, was so excited that he wants to expand it to include other programs that were during the time, going on. So, the excitement was there. Okay. Now, that was in 2019 December. Yeah, we showed it to the dealers as well, the owner of the fuel station franchise, and they were equally excited. And of course, there's no such thing as free lunch. So we told them this is what we need, this investment, and they were ready. I mean, they were saying, "Okay, we're with you, Charlie, and we're good to go." Now, we all know that 2020, that's when the pandemic actually started. Yeah. So I thought for a while that it's going to have a negative impact to
yeah,
the program because we did a 3-year program. However, well, as you may have surmised, it expedited the program.
mhm.
So the 3-year program, 80% of the projects, initiatives in the program, they were delivered in 6 months during
Oh,
the pandemic.
okay.
We were ready. I mean, we were ready with an app. So we were trying to create a super app. We were ready with the concept of the app. We were ready with all this digital engagement at the retail station because during the pandemic, the mandate was contactless. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we've already had in the plan, it's just show the QR code and you're good to go. There's even the credit card. You don't even have to, give in the Philippines. I don't know in India, but in the Philippines, it's actually full serve, which means we don't get off the car. We get served by pump attendants, which is I think the same for Bangalore. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been to
Yeah.
in Bangalore. So, we were ready with the plan, and we delivered 80% of that in 6 months' time. And one front and center of this is this mobile app I've alluded to called Limitless. And we did a lot of firsts. First time, and I don't know globally until now, no one during my stint, 12 years or 15 years in Shell, no one ever sell fuel electronically. Yeah, how can you sell fuel electronically? But
Yeah.
we were able to via vouchers. We were
Okay.
selling fuels using vouchers. Yeah. And it was so exciting because there were long queues in the gasoline station during the pandemic. We launched it June 12th of 2020. That's actually Independence Day. So it
Mhm.
was very timely. It was like telling the customers, oh, it's your time to be independent. We have this mobile app where you don't even have to engage much with a pump attendant. It has to be contactless, and this is how you do it. Marketing initiatives, it's done through the mobile app. I mean, it was really very innovative. And in fact, talk about whether it's successful or not. Well, for me, the proof of the pudding is when your competitor copies it.
Mhm. True.
And the competitor, our competitors, including Shell, by the way, yeah, we are pioneering it, really front runner. And yeah, I mean, the app, if I were to mention, after 6 months, we had more than 200,000 registered members after 6 months, and almost a billion peso transactions going through the app.
Next, we had a very interesting question for Charlie. We have seen digital transformation often have a high failure rates. When asked what are the primary reason for this failure, here's what Charlie had to say.
It is very sad. I mean, it's real, but it's sad. In fact, this is I was reading over the holiday during Christmas. This book, it was published. It's published by McKinsey. It's called Rewired, and it
Mhm.
corroborates the 70% here. So in that book, is saying this digital transformation program actually delivered only 31% of the revenue uplift committed, and on cost savings only 25%. I mean, they're very disappointing indeed. And I mean, I probably understand, but I mean, coming from that success in the oil and gas retail company that I worked for, I didn't realize that the number is staggering from failure standpoint. Well, for me, I'd like to focus more on what actually makes digital transformation successful, or what
Mhm.
are the key success factors. Of course, if you from my perspective, if you miss out in one or two of these factors, I mean, it's tantamount to well, not necessarily fail, but it may succeed, but it's not sustainable, or success is suboptimal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are the success factors? I call them the four C's. Yeah. McKinsey has the four C's as well. They're saying these are the forces of digital transformation, but I have my own version, the four C's. It's going to be long, Nabra, so bear with me on this. So the first one, it has to be championed by the CEO. It's not just
Okay.
led by the CEO, it has to be visibly championed. It's not a passive leadership from the CEO, but it has to be active. The CEO has to walk the talk. And yeah, I've talked about the successful digital transformation that we've done. That was a key ingredient. Yeah, the CEO partnering with me on it, and being consistent with the messaging. Yeah, this is for me the most crucial. I mean, I've been with a company, one of the local conglomerates, wherein the president didn't appreciate and understand technology, but he has full trust in me, and he says, Charlie, I mean, you're the expert in technology. I leave it with you. Yeah, and I was happy. So you trust me? Okay, I'll go, and I have his full support. It's just that it became a cry in the wilderness. So I was
Mhm.
preaching, I was advocating, but you're alone. And it's
Yeah.
sad. It's difficult to progress something as huge as this. And
Yeah.
transformation, digital transformation is not incremental, by the way. So transformation here, it's a change in the way you do things, touching the culture side as well. So it can't just be me talking about it and advocating it. I should have someone supporting, especially from the top. Yeah. So the first C is really the CEO to be championing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the second C is having a compelling case for change. I
Yeah.
mean, having a sense of urgency for it. And this was evident with what I mentioned earlier. They're seeing it, they're visualizing it. which is a huge thing because the organization must feel the compelling reason why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah. So not just in words, but in that case, in a skit, we did this skit and showing them how it looks like when we're there. Yeah. So the case must be compelling. It's not just say, oh, we're going to be better, we'll be more competitive. I mean, all these motherhood statement, they won't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially pre-pandemic. In fact, pre-pandemic, it was very difficult to sell digital transformation. Now, during the pandemic, it was a case of survival. So they have no choice. That's a compelling case for change. It's either you innovate or you evaporate. I mean, that was the phrase then. So it was easier, but pre-pandemic, it was difficult. Well, in fact, in the pandemic, everyone wants to go into it, but they don't know how it looks like. Yeah, they were clueless. So they were just copying what the others are doing without being purposeful as well. Yeah. So really being clear about the case for change and make it compelling, having a sense of urgency is critical to making the digital transformation program successful. The third C is actually culture change. So there has to be a culture change, otherwise it won't work. The mindset change, especially on how the company views failure. Okay, so you've heard about fail fast to learn fast, or even fail forward. That's true. These are not just phrases. Because I mean, digital transformation, there's a lot of discovery. There are a lot of unknowns, and it's really educating the organization that somehow, somewhere, it might fail, and you have to accept it. The most important thing is that we learn from it and we're able to pivot quickly. That's one thing. So it's not just failing for the sake of failing, but once you recognize a failure, it's be able to pivot immediately. And that's in fact what we've done with the example that I mentioned earlier. There were failures in between, but we're quick to pivot. That's the most crucial thing. And that's a culture change for some companies, because some companies, I mean, face saving, you don't want to fail because you want to save face. Yeah. You continue to charge along. And I've seen the other company. So another company, one of the four, they force the issue because they know there's something there, although there are already signs that it's not going the right direction, but they continue to spend good money in the wrong project and end up, spending a lot of money, and the project is actually not economically viable. And they, after spending so much time, effort, and resources, as well as budget, that's when you realize, okay, it failed, and let's learn from it. But after spending a lot of money. So that's a third C. The last one, the fourth one, is capability, of course. At the end of the day, it's not about technology. It's actually the people. People make the difference real. People still make things happen. But this is not just people on the street joining the organizations. So they have to have the right capability. They have to have the right mindset. They have to embrace the agile principle. So the capability, and for digital transformation, the technologies that you're employing in your projects are new. So internally, you're sure that there's no one who's competent on it. So you have to buy the capability outside, and partnering with the right vendors, another thing. Well, you should avoid vendors who overpromise. They'll say, oh, we can do this with data science. This will work like a miracle, and it's a silver bullet, and so on and so forth, without the client knowing that only 10% of the models actually go into production. So it's a trial and error thing. So those are the four C's.
Our second panelist is Zeljko Ivkovic. He is the CIO at ISS in Singapore and brings over 20 years of experience in IT, automotive, and logistics to his role in digitizing and automating the facility management sector. Having worked across Croatia, Germany, Japan, China, and Singapore, Zeljko is recognized for his ability to lead cross-cultural teams and drive innovation, making significant strides in transforming traditional industries through technology. We asked Zeljko to share his top insight on integrating digital transformation initiatives across different corporate cultures and geographical regions. How is it different? And here's what he had to share.
I think the word digital always comes a bit like together with tech and machines and with the tech solutions. But what's much, much more important is the whole people piece to it, right? So if you're running a digital transformation, it's much more about influencing a whole organization. And you can imagine that the whole thing is changing depending on the industry, depending on the size of the organization. Is it a very streamlined? Is it a tech company, for example? Do you have like many different departments? Who are the decision makers? So that piece was something that I really had to learn the hard way in the past, expecting you have a template, you have a workshop, the whole thing runs by itself, right? So, and it was a very different kind of perspective that I had to learn. So as I mentioned, it's not only an IT job, but it's much more about facilitation, about communicating, being an influencer in the whole story, because you need, in the end, you have to manage people, you have to manage relationships, you need to influence, you have to market something, right? So the marketing piece I would have never seen in the past in such a kind of like a role to bring it forward, right? Because you will always, in any kind of environment, you will always also experience resistance. It's not going to be that you go into something, you define a certain goal, and then have only followers around you, right? So it's really something where you have many opportunities, but also many challenges to get everyone on the boat, to support, to be part of the whole transformation journey. And as mentioned, digital transformation comes obviously as well with a certain set of kind of goals that you have. You have these tangible goals in terms of what you want to achieve. For example, like what are the customer needs there, right? So for us, it's very, very important to be customer centric and at the same time have this win-win approach between ISS and the customer to really find the right approach for both sides to work together, to partner up and have a long-term relationship rather than having something you throw over the fence. It works, it doesn't work, we don't care afterwards, but it's really very much about like a collaborative approach, something that works and works in the long term.
We then asked Zeljko about the importance of customer satisfaction and long-term relationships. What innovative approach or strategy has he found most effective in aligning IT infrastructure or operations to enhance customer interaction and satisfaction?
Yes, there is no single one answer, I think, right? So especially looking at Asia Pacific right now. So we have these high cost countries, we have low cost countries, we have different possibilities, different leverage systems that we can use. Obviously, one thing is omni-channel support, right? So that we have different kind of like ways to communicate with our customer base, with our partners. They also go out and understand, listen in. It's not just, for example, what is often confused to think, to know the solution, but rather ask where the problems are. So the majority usually to a problem is 95% or so is really defining the problem. And the more clear the problem is, the easier it is, that's the 5% that I'm referring to, will be the solution. So it's more or less like if you are very aware, very clear where the pain points are for the customers, I think it's much easier to find a satisfying answer or solution than if you're trying to guess and bring something forward just because it's hyped on the market at the moment, right? So you have similar, for example, like experiences right now with these large language models that are super hyped. It's super useful, right? But you need to find the right use cases, not just like, hey, I'm part of the gang that is on the train right now, but really to have proper use cases that benefit. We have cloud-based solutions that we offer, especially for the scalability and the flexibility to ensure that the IT infrastructure can adapt to the changing customer demands and the business requirements. And together with this also comes cybersecurity to invest there to have a safe and stable environment. Because I mean, you have these kind of things with all the damage that's being done with cybersecurity nowadays, especially with AI playing a role in having these big threats that are happening. You need to be more cautious, and that's also a big value proposition that ISS brings forward to the table to have a very big team, probably the biggest team in the industry for security, because it's one of our major focus points to offer cybersecure solutions, not just like anything that's working out of sight.
Our next question for him was about the diverse technological solutions available today. How does he prioritize which innovation to implement for operational excellence and customer service improvement?
Strategy. And strategy is really a stretch word, right? So it's all about the business goals. And business goals goes both ways. This is not what's in for ISS. It's in, that's what I mentioned before as well. It's like this win-win, this partnership between customer and ISS to really find the right strategic fit for us, right? So we have to find as well the right innovations. There are plenty of innovations, plenty of startups out there, and only a very small proportion is going to be successful in the long run, right? So with limited budgets, you have to be very careful and very particular in the way that you basically start like moving towards. And the same is as well to be problem solving focused, right? So not just like something to put in a nice to have, for example, something that's fancy but doesn't really solve a problem. You will have many of these, and there's more and more of these kind of things happening, especially nowadays. where you see all these kind of like helping tools that you have that create a bit illusion of having an actual solution, but not really a problem that you're solving with it, right? It's very much about this piece of understanding what the priorities are, and then you have a timeline basically with it. That's why I'm basically usually trying to say it's a strategy that's aligned from top and bottom. So it goes both ways. There is a strong alignment, strict alignment as well coming from the ISS boards, also defining on a global scale what the priorities are and what the strategy is. And at the same time as well, there is a feedback loop that comes from the countries that as well like aligns within the whole senior leadership team within the countries, and then loops back basically this kind of feedback to really understand where the pain points are. That's what I mentioned before, right? Because in the countries you're the closest to the customers, you won't be having always a complete like holistic view only from the top, but you really need to be on the ground to talk to different customers. You have global key accounts, you have small, medium-sized companies, and that's a very different ballgame if you start like looking for solutions, because you can't always use the same kind of solutions that work for one customer. That is, for example, like let's call it, for example, a bank, and you have other sites that are much smaller. So the investment capabilities of customers are very different. And accordingly, you have to as well be flexible in the way how you solve issues with technology solutions to have the right solutions in place that are also affordable, right? So it goes it's a whole kind of like matrix that requires different aspects to consider depending on the industry that you're serving, depending on the country and the service lines.
Finally, we know how crucial it is to have that top to bottom buy in for such a strategy to be successful. We are Selco. When you are in a transformation journey, it also requires a shift in mindset and company culture. Can you share a specific challenge you have faced while driving such a change in an organization? And how did you overcome that resistance?
A challenge. I believe you will always have a challenge, no matter your history, no matter your successes. That's at least my learning that I have had. So there is no guarantee to be successful just because you've been successful in the past. The whole thing is only to put down a strategy, to have a goal in mind that is aligned, obviously, as well. Have faith and be resistant, be resilient, right? Go that path. So the mindset shift is a very important one. So, for example, if you, depending on the maturity of the organizations you come in, you will always have a different approach to those. How to change the mindset very much depends not on the overall, for example, like industry that you're in, not which country you're only in, but there are all cultural aspects, even religious aspects, right, that you have to consider to be able to be successful in changing a mindset. Because we have people who are like changing from different companies coming newly in, they're rather flexible in terms of the mindset. You have people who are since many, many decades with the company. And obviously, it's a bit more difficult then to move from something that you're used to do in the past successfully, right? And then to have to adjust or adapt or to believe in something that the new guys basically are trying to propose. You have my personal experience is looking as well a bit from my past. So in China, I always had the experience it was much, much easier to implement change and to drive it with the mindset, right? It comes a bit from the cultural perspective as well in China. You have a bit of a different kind of like expectation as well, and a bit more of following kind of like mindset or attitude. It will be, I think, very, very different and much more challenging as well if you go more to the Western hemisphere, where you have much more preparation work to do. You need much more buy-in and influencing to get everyone in the boat together to then make a more democratic decision, to have like kind of like a bigger group that then makes a decision. It takes more time, it is more effort, but that's basically the learning that I had. It very much depends on the country that you are in, on the region that you're in, the industry. So it's so many aspects that you have to consider. But again, you have to be open-minded. You have to try to also understand. And I think if you have this communication with the actual stakeholders, it will help a lot to make things easier and to understand where the potential pain points will be to change and to shift the mindset and the company culture in the end.
This has been an incredible discussion with both Charlie and Zeljko. Your insights into the success factors of digital transformation, the importance of cultural change, and the strategic implementation across regions have been enlightening. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Digital Adoption Show. Explore these thought provoking conversations on Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube, and much more. Whether you are at home or on the go, a podcast is your gateway to the latest trends in learning and digital adoption. I'm your host, Neha Smriti, signing off. Stay tuned for more engaging and informative episodes. Thank you.